Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of The Effects Loop. This week, we are telling Guitar Center horror stories. So I figured, why not, right? I don't necessarily have a problem with Guitar Center. I mean, I spend a lot of money there. I'm constantly buying stuff there. So I don't know that I have an issue with Guitar Center per se. But I have had some experiences at Guitar Center that were less than ideal. Let's put it that way. So let's get right into these stories because they're kind of crazy. And I don't mean this as a slander on Guitar Center, even though it's going to come off that way, but there's some crazy stories here. Story 1, The Sloth. This happened when my daughter was probably about 2, maybe 3 years old. I decided that I was going to sell a Gibson Epiphone Les Paul that I had for many years. And I pretty much knew what I was going to get for it, so I wasn't concerned so much about the value because I knew they were going to give me what I expected. But I had that, and I also had a power cab, a Line 6 power cab, that I was trying to sell at the same time. So I went to a local, I'm not going to say which one, but a local Guitar Center. And when I got there, I was met by the employee, which as soon as I saw the person that was going to be handling my trade, I immediately was like, oh God, no, not him, not that guy. Because I mean, I've had issues with him before. And he's a nice guy, don't get me wrong, but he is the slowest of the slow as far as workers are concerned. And he is like distracted by everything under the sun. If like there's somebody says something to him and all of a sudden it's like 15 minutes later and you're still waiting. So I've got this like 2-3-year-old kid with me and she's cool up to a certain point. And he sees that. And so he's dealing with my trade. Everything's going along pretty smoothly, actually. We're right about the point where they're gonna give me the amount and they're gonna, go through their process and give me the trade, this and that. And mind you, this has taken about 10-15 minutes already, which, is what it is. Customer comes up with some kind of weird question. The guy literally just takes off. And I'm literally stuck standing there for over a half an hour with my daughter, just waiting around. She's getting crazier and crazier and more aggravated, like literally sitting on the floor like crying, like having a fit. And I'm like, okay, chill out. We're almost done. He'll be here in a few minutes. Finally, like a half hour later, maybe a little bit more, he comes back. Looks at the stuff, gets the credit amount, he goes, okay, this is gonna be it. Now I gotta go see my manager. Another customer comes along, takes off with that customer. Another half an hour goes by. I'm still standing there. I swear to God, I'm like ready to like freaking freak out. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Can we, and I'm a nice guy. I'm not gonna like butt in and be mean to people. So, yeah. So I waited around. My kid is going nuts. She's flipping out. He finally comes back. And he hasn't even gone to the manager yet to get the clearance for the stuff. Then he calls the manager over and they go through this whole process and that takes about another 20-25 minutes. And then finally I get this situation straightened out. This is like 2 hours later. And I'm maybe 2.5 hours later. And I'm just standing there like with a kid screaming, freaking out. And I swear to God, as soon as he gave me my money, I bolted out of that store. And I've never gone back to that particular store to sell anything ever again because that experience was like the worst experience I've ever had at a Guitar Center. Well, one of. Let's put it that way. Okay, let's go to another story. My next story is going to be, I don't even know what to call this one, but let's just call it the aloof employee. So once again, I've sold and traded a lot of stuff at Guitar Center. I went back there to trade something, to, you know, just pedals, all that kind of stuff. And it goes through the whole process, okay? And this was actually at a different store. One that I usually don't have many issues with. So the first person that I get, he deals with my stuff, he looks it up. You know, it takes a little while, I get it. It's not a quick process, no big deal. He does a lot of stuff, and then all of a sudden, a customer shows up, and he has to stop what he's doing and go and deal with the customer. Whatever. So he hands off my trade to this other employee who's there, which all these people remain nameless because I don't want to, like, bust anybody. But he hands it over to her. And this employee, she looks at a few things, she starts doing some stuff, and then she gets, this is like another 15-20 minutes right here, goes through all my stuff, and then she just takes off into the back room. And I'm not really sure what she's doing. And I'm like, okay, whatever, I don't know, okay, I'm just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. Then she comes back and I see her talking to a manager. And then I literally see her, she says, I can't even remember what she says. Something along the lines of like she feels like she's gonna pass out. And she just leaves the store. And I'm still standing there at the counter waiting for somebody to deal with me. They've got half of my process done in a computer already. I stood there for like 5 minutes. And then I went back to the original employee that had been helping me saying, hey, you know what? That person never finished my stuff. He's like, oh, okay. Then he makes me wait like 15 minutes to finish what he's doing, and then he goes back to finishing my stuff, and it finally gets done. Another hour-and-a-half process, at least, at Guitar Center. These are my experiences with the Guitar Center, okay? Okay, so here's the third story that I'm gonna tell, and it's my final story for this episode. My third story that I'm going to tell right now. This involved a return. I went back, I returned, it was a pedal. As a matter of fact, I think it was a Timmy pedal, because literally I had bought multiple Timmy pedals from Guitar Center, and every time I got one, the input jack was messed up on it. It was the MXR Timmy. The input jack was messed up. So I went back to Guitar Center to return it, and when I went and returned the pedal, everything seemed to go pretty well. The guy gave me my credit, all set. He said, yeah, this amount has been credited to your bank account. Okay, cool, no problem. Weeks go by, and nothing. I see nothing credited to my bank account. And so finally I'm like, I gotta call somebody. And I call him and I let him know, oh, sorry, oh, I don't know what happened. We'll take care of that. Literally, like the next day, the money goes back into my bank account. And I'm like, oh, good, great, awesome. It was like $60 or something like that. I'm like, awesome, cool, it's fixed, no big deal. I mean, this took like a month, but no big deal. A week later, the money gets retracted from my bank account by Guitar Center. Like, they took it back. And I'm like, why did they take it back? So I contact the Guitar Center, and of course, nobody knows what's going on. The employee, thank God I kept good records of all this whole transaction, because I had to give them the dates and when the pedal was returned and all that stuff. I ended up having to go back into the store to talk to a person, and he straightened it out. He said, listen, I'll talk to corporate, we'll get it straightened out, no big deal. Weeks go by, nothing. Not a single thing happens in my bank account. I finally called the store and I'm like, what's going on here? And they're like, you know what? We figured out what the problem is. You've been working on it for like 2 months. We've been working on it. Come back in the store, we'll give you $60 like store credit. We'll give you cash back. Actually they gave me cash back, $60 cash. So, I mean, I don't live close to the store. I had to drive all the way back up to the store, and they gave me my $60 back in cash. This was like 2 months later, and I had dealt with corporate, I had dealt with store employees, I had dealt with multiple people in the process. And mind you, those are just 3 of my experiences I've had with Guitar Center. Maybe if I can come up with some more, I'll do another video at some time. But these were my Guitar Center horror stories. So if you like this kind of content, like, subscribe, you know, hit that notification bell. And here is Flames, because she's out of school for the summer, so she's around all the time. That's okay though. But anyway, like, subscribe, leave a comment, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm Jay Byrne. This has been the Effects Loop. Take care. See you next time.